morning, dear participants and attendees, dear speakers. Good morning and welcome. Thank you for taking time to join us this morning and to our meeting and discussion on how clusters and ecosystems help to connect science and business. I will outline the floor of our session. I will introduce our valuable panelists and which will give their presentations. You're more than welcome to address your questions during the presentations, and we will open the floor after that for answers and further discussions. Though my role today is to moderate the session, I have also been connected to Cluster for a couple of years now. And for me, clusters are the most natural platform for collaboration and knowledge exchange. Cluster drive change, their service have flexible and transparent business models. Clusters focus on today's priorities, being not only very well functioning ecosystems, but acting as facilitator on the continuous reorganization in order to have all the actors to stay focused. Clusters are building bridges across sectors. Today in our session, clusters and ecosystem will present innovative ideas how to strengthen the links between science and business based on the experienced COVID-19 crisis and the subsequent need for economic recovery. The recovery needs to embrace the green, digital, and resilient transformation. Clusters are the bridge builders in and between the industrial ecosystem, and clusters can act as catalysts, and they bring together various actors and have a particular reach out to SMEs. For greening and digitalization, a close collaboration with researchers facilitates the integration of approaches such as circular economy and sustainable technologies. Resilience is a network property, not the property of individual actor. The cluster approach is collective, working on holistic strategies for behavioral, social, economic, and environmental impact. Clusters have provided proof that they can react quickly. They are flexible to help reshaping value chains, detect problems in the ecosystems, and identify solutions. The European Cluster Alliance was established last year in 2019 with the purpose of creating a Europe-wide network with national cluster associations. The ECA represents 13 national cluster associations and 740 cluster organizations across Europe. It works with representatives from countries without national cluster networks as well, like Germany and Italy, as well as universities, research centers, and public institutions. Today we'll discover how to join co-creation process between clusters, companies, researchers, and policymakers. We'll have our valuable speakers today on our virtual floor, Ulla Engelman, Antonio Novo, and Bianca Montuan. Unfortunately, we will not have today our valuable speaker, Mr. Athanasios Konstantopoulou. Unfortunately, he's having some health problems and was not able to join us this morning. But he's a great example of how to work with science. And I'll give you a brief presentation of Athanasios, who is a professor of chemical engineering of Aristotle University. He's a specialist in nanoparticle technologies and is having many researches, but we will be repeating during our communication today and discussion the great work we've been doing together during the past months. And now it's my pleasure to give a warm welcome to Ulla Engelman. Ulla is the head of units for social economy with DigiGrow, the Directorate General being responsible for internal market, industry, entrepreneurship, and SMEs at the European Commission. Since the beginning of 2017, she covered European cluster policy, social economy, as well as women entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship education. From October 2018 onwards, advanced technologies, including artificial intelligence and digital transformation from industry have been added to her responsibilities. Previously, she also worked at the Joint Research Center in-house science service of European Commission for many years in different functions. She started in the Joint Research Center in Ispra, Italy in 1993 as a postdoc in fusion research and moved to manage various units in ISPRA and Brussels. She holds a PhD in analytical and radiochemistry, completed at the National Research Center in Karlsruhe. Ulla, it's my great pleasure, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody, and I'm very pleased to be here to present to you the role of clusters. And as our moderator Theodora said, we want to look into how to link or what possibilities there are to connect scientists. We here speak about clusters, we speak about industrial clusters. So for us, clusters are firm and any other related economic institutions which are located near each other and have reached a sufficient scale to develop a specialized expertise, services, resources, suppliers, and skills. And we have identified in Europe around 3,000 strong clusters, and these account for a total of 15. We look at these 3,000 strong clusters, which we have on a special platform. This is including university research centers, but also training organizations. So it is a vast ecosystem which these clusters are covering. And in order to be able to determine, but also to connect between these different clusters, because the aim is to see how we can help and boost collaboration via, we have more than 1,000 of these 3,000 clusters registered on what we call European Cluster Collaboration Platform, which means this platform has 100,000 specialists and 11,000 university research organizations. So if we look at this from an ecosystem approach, so we have here also on this slide the different parts of an ecosystem, and you see in this orange kind of form academia and research community, which very likely is much more where most of the ESOF participants are coming from. And we have also, with our previous cluster observatory, done an analysis why cluster matter. And it could show, and also from a resilient point of view, it became clear that once you are part of a cluster, you are more resilient, but also you have, let's say, a higher average wage, a higher employment growth rate, and more high growth firms in it. So then also, because we have talked about ecosystems, and the notion of ecosystems, the industrial ecosystems, are part of the new industrial strategy for Europe, which is a communication which was issued by the European Commission in the beginning of March, just before the COVID crisis. But of course, what is in this very relevant, and now, of course, is adapted. But once we had these systems were looked at, we used the industrial ecosystems during the crisis to identify the impact of the COVID crisis on the industrial ecosystems in Europe. And that's what you see in this slide. We have 14 industrial ecosystems which cover 90% of the economy, which is most hit. So this 40 ecosystems, different economic data which we have. It's preliminary data which we were looking at in order to have an hit. Systems we are because with the way science looks at things. So here, these are really the economic sectors, and these are tourism, creative and cultural industries, aerospace and defense, textiles, electronics, mobility, transport, automotive, energy-intensive industries, renewable energy, agri-food, health, retail, and proximity and social economy. So we are working with these 14 ecosystems to look into how we can help the recovery process. And one part where we think the recovery process will benefit using clusters, because clusters bridge actors and implement innovative proposals. Because during the beginning of the crisis, clusters helped to identify disruption in the Euro value chain and in figuring out what are best possible solutions. But also, clusters can help to identify critical companies with high-tech, critical know-how, production, or technologies. Therefore, the role of clusters is really to integrate different in the ecosystem, because we said cluster bridge builders. So they are bridge builders between business, research, public administration, civil society, and users. But they are also bridge builders between different ecosystems. And the role of scientists and the need for business is to ensure knowledge transfer, business assistance in product development, developing the workforce, having the business science partnership development, and of course, also very needed for society, enhancing the knowledge limits, teaching, and the community development. How could this be done concretely? How concretely science could work clusters? This is starting now in October, but for this, the first calls have been launched and identified, so we will see how it goes, and it's called the Cluster Exchange Pilot Scheme. Cluster exchange mean with this pilot, we are allowing short-term exchanges between clusters SMEs, scaling up support of cluster organization. Research centers can be part of a cluster, so they could also have these short-term exchanges. Of course, now we kick off with virtual exchanges because we are hoping that via these exchanges you can identify new partners, market access, network, but share experience, learning and training, and technology uptake. And we have over 500 exchanges, and we will involve at least 50% of SMEs. So, and there the aim is really maybe to have this relevant SME where you can connect and work together on a project. But new call launched in November 2020, which will allow for more than 1,000 exchanges. So this could be an opportunity to see which research center are part of a cluster, and then they could exchange also with others. Another, and you are very well aware, the audience here, about the Marie Sklodowska-Curie action on the individual fellowships, and the deadline is imminent, 9th of September, because you could also be hosted by a cluster. So this is also possible to draw your attention to. This is not obvious, but this Marie Sklodowska-Curie action could be used to place in a cluster. Actually, we wanted, as we talk for opportunities, scientists which are doing, I wanted to aware we have created a new portal which on advantages for industry. It is online since some days, and it monitors the generation and uptake of advanced technologies at sectoral level. It provides analytical reports on technological trends across EU and abroad, and it focuses those advanced technologies that will be able and shift carbon and knowledge-based economy. It hasn't focused on AI, blockchain, photonics, advanced materials. And so for scientists, it could be useful to look at the statistical data, the trend analysis, and we think we wanted to make you aware of this possibility of this new portal which exists. We are, of course, as I said before, fostering a lot of cooperation amongst cluster, and this we do also in different kind of networks, and not only within EU, because I have mentioned in the beginning of my presentation that we have the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, but we are working to enhance it, to include, particularly for the digital and the sustainable transition. We involve the European Resource Efficiency Knowledge Center. We merge it in because it is really to allow for the policy priorities, Green Deal, international, different information on this platform. And we will, in the November, during the German presidency, have a major European cluster conference where also we could continue this kind of discussion, how to engage with scientists if there's an interest for. So I leave my presentation with how we can be contacted, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ulla, for this overview about the clusters, about the current work and the networks, as well as the priority sectors. It is obviously in our daily lives, we mention the word clusters on a hourly basis or on a minute basis, and we've been talking a lot about European Cluster Collaboration Platform, but it's really important we to share more information to the audience, and it's a great opportunity today. We can stress about how we connect more and more again, and to highlight about the clusters are really side by side to companies and their needs, and clusters are sensors of the ecosystems, being catalysis in their reactors. So thank you very much for this overview and presentation. And it's my great pleasure to welcome and to present Mr. Antonio Novo, who combines his training as a technologist and a psychologist to develop his professional life around collaborative, innovative through clusters. Antonio is the managing director of the Cluster IDEA, which brings together 81 companies and institutions that collaborate in the development of ICT projects. He is the president of the European Cluster Alliance and as well the Spanish Federation of Clusters. He is also a member of the expert group on clusters of the European Commission. Antonio is currently co-leading, together with a representative from Canada, the Smart Digital Ecosystems Through Clusters group of TCI Network, the Global Cluster Network. It's my pleasure to welcome you on the floor, Antonio, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Theodora, for your introduction. Good morning, everybody. I am, as Theodora said, representing the European Cluster Alliance. First, I want to introduce our alliance. We have 13 national associations, including the federation. The rest of the countries, I will say that they are inside our alliance, but they don't have national associations. So mostly we integrate the 80% of the European clusters and something like 123,000 of innovative businesses, probably the most innovative in Europe. And I will say that near every university is related to one cluster or another, and probably the same for the research centers and public institutions. I want to introduce also another concept, is the European Alliance Against Coronavirus, and it's something wider than the European Cluster Alliance. Why? Because at the beginning of the crisis, we saw the need to quickly react, and we started immediately to collaborate with the European Commission, with GROW, putting our resources at the disposal of our authorities. And that means that we started linking not only with our members, but also with the research community, with the social movements, and started to meet daily and to think together and to act. Not only think, but to act. And that was at the end organized around the European Alliance Against Coronavirus, and we received a contact from the Commission to act as part of the EU Rapid Alert function. Okay. During our analysis, it was very clear for us that we needed to approach the reality as a very complex system. Okay, not just analyzing individual cluster or individual problems, neither just industrial value chains. We thought of our reality as very complex, co-evolving ecosystems. And the key agents on those ecosystems are those that connects different ones, okay? What Athanasius called keystone agents, okay? And part of our main tasks are to identify those agents and to support them, to give them more capacities, more power, okay? And this is a representation of the network of clusters across and agents across Europe. And as you can see, nodes are mostly related to different ones, to different ecosystems, to different functionalities, topics, and that's the real situation. So we understand that the links between those ecosystems are the key part, and clusters and research centers and our ecosystem, innovative ecosystem is critical for the success of the of what will be now the recovery plans, and also for the reconstruction of our economy. Okay, why? Because resilience, as Teodora said before, is a property of the network, not of the node, as you will probably know. Okay, so we want to have more dense network more connected between them. Okay, and that will help us to avoid the kind of problems that we suffered some months ago. Okay, so this is the analysis, this is the proposal, and I want to give you some examples now about how clusters are working with the research center, with the researchers, with the universities. And as I am a cluster manager myself of the cluster IDEA in Aragon, in Spain, I want just to give you some direct examples from our cluster, okay? Just a very, very brief introduction of our cluster. We have, here is 78 members, it changes around the time, okay? But we are around 80 members, both from the ICT intensive user side and to the sector, the providers, ICT providers, okay? And we are grouping something like 70,000 employees and 16,000 ICT professionals. So we are focused on digitalization, and we were born in 2004, so near 16 years old, okay? We have a lot of different interests, workgroups, focus. It changes across the time, okay? But I want to give you one example, recent example, more or less. This is from 3 years ago. We started working very seriously on artificial intelligence, data analytics, data science, okay? And to do that, we not only work it with our cluster, but with other clusters. A lot of companies, you see there some big ones, but there were a lot of SMEs, some technological centers, and at least 3, for the initial study, 3 different universities or technological groups, okay? And from this analysis that was conducted during half a year, there were derived something like 9 different projects, okay? And here you have 2 concrete exit from those projects that were elaborated in a strong collaboration with the with different universities and research centers, okay? As I have said, related to digitalization, okay? But we were working for years with them in basic research of network capacity and network developments for enabling high level of sensorization at industrial floors, okay? And when I say high, we are speaking of thousands of devices connected at the same time across different plants in Europe, okay? I cannot stop here, but this is just one example, okay? Another example of our close link to your environment is that our past two general assemblies has been done in the context of the main transference forum in Spain. Is the most important one, and is celebrated every February on Malaga. You are for sure invited to attend if you want. We received something like 6,000 attendants, and it's the main opportunity to link with all the research groups in our country and others, because it's open for international participation. Okay. Coming back to the European Alliance Against Coronavirus, I want to invite you also to attend our morning sessions. We are meeting every morning on weekdays at 8:30 Central European Time, and you can see there the calendar for this month, for September. We are focusing on what cluster, including you, including the research community, can do for the European recovery plans. You know that every country, every member state is developing those plans, and we are making an exercise of knowing best references and proposing ways to work with the national government or regional governments in the same case, to include clusters, to include our community on those plans. Okay, and next week it will be totally focused on the smart specialization strategies, and in fact Monday is focused on the enhancing the research and innovation capacities and uptake of advanced technologies. So the participation is public, and you have there the link to go. Okay, and that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Antonio. I believe it was very useful for everyone to understand among all the attendees to our session, to understand what stands behind the European Cluster Alliance, but mostly to find out about the work that's been done throughout the past months with the morning discussions. For me personally, it was a great experience, because this proof once again that the clusters are really able quickly to recognize disruptions. This is one of the things I really found, that during these discussions, we made very strong connections, not only between the industries, but the sessions and these discussions gathered multidisciplinary competences. And I'm sure that we will continue further to expand and to search for more and more opportunities, and to work with actors from with the different players, with the researchers, with the business, with the private and public sector. And now it's a great pleasure to give further examples. And for me, it's a pleasure to welcome on our stage Bianca Montean. Bianca is the cluster manager of year 2019-2020, elected by the European Cluster Community. She's also the manager of Transylvania IT Cluster, a gold-labeled cluster, and she has over 20 years of experience in ecosystem building. She is working closely with local, regional, and national authorities in drafting sectoral and competitiveness strategies. Transylvania IT Cluster follows the quadruple helix model and provides innovation support services and facilities collaborative projects, with Bianca representing the interests of cluster members at local, regional, national, and international level. Also, she is a member of the European Cluster Expert Group at DigiGrow, European Commission. Bianca, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation and for having me in this panel. It is a great pleasure to speak about what we are doing in our region, in eastern part of the Europe, through our cluster community. So, Transylvania IT Cluster was established in 2013, and it's quite a new cluster, seeing our colleagues from the other parts of Europe. We only have 7 years of experience working as a community and innovation ecosystem, but we are very happy to be part of the EU cluster family. For the moment, our IT cluster is acting in northwestern part of Romania, in Transylvania region, as the name says. And we are quite a big cluster, considering the size of the clusters in this part of the Europe. We have more than 115 private members, small and medium-sized enterprises, large companies, but also startups. We also have, as a members, universities, research centers, and public administration. What we are doing, of course, like our colleagues, we are focused on bridging entrepreneurship, research, innovation, and public administration. We are encouraging them to work together and to share their activities, focusing on digital transformation with the aim of improving our community through innovation and digitalization. Also, we have started 3 years ago the activities under the umbrella of Transylvania Digital Innovation Hub, and our cluster is the main orchestrator for this new initiative. So as main activities, just to give you an example, what we are doing, and to give you in one sentence the essence of our work, we are working in putting at the same table different actors from our region, and we are translating the language they are speaking, because sometimes we as entrepreneurs or innovators or researchers or as public servants, we are speaking about the same objectives, but we are using different type of languages. So one of our objectives is to ensure this translation among the stakeholders and to identify common objectives and projects, and to do this matchmaking process among our actors. So we are very closely working in different projects for our community at the regional level with the universities, public administration, and also small and medium-sized enterprises. We see the technology not as an end purpose, but as an enabler that can support and provide modern solutions for other business sectors, public authorities, academia, and society overall. So we truly believe that we can all contribute through increasing the quality of life at the local, regional, national, and European levels. So these are our key objectives: enhancing innovation, supporting collaboration at local, regional, national, and European level, to develop synergies, to support digitalization and smart ideas, projects, and application. If we are speaking about verticals, actually, Eastern Europe, as you might know, is acting mainly, when we speak about information society, as an outsourcing destination. And we are working heavily with our research center and universities to invest and to develop some main verticals, some main competencies. Until then, we are providing different support services for creative industries, field, agriculture, robotics, cultural heritage, and also circular economy. So I will speak you very briefly about some really specific examples of collaboration in our community. And these are two projects financed under Urban Innovative Actions, in which we are acting as an ecosystem, having the public administration from northwestern Romania acting as a coordinator, and where our cluster is working with the universities in different topics. And first we have Spire Project, which has as a main ambition of sharing a long-time environmental, social, and economic redevelopment of Baia Mare, a city in northern Romania, facilitating its transition from an ex-mining capital to a leader of environmental design and production through novel approaches to attain its objective. This project also aims to develop an entrepreneurship hub in this city, and it will be implementing a local token system named iLew. So for the environmental part, we are working very closely with the University of Agricultural Sciences and Veterinary Medicine in Cluj-Napoca, where our researchers are dealing with soil analysis and are identifying solutions for decontamination of polluted soil. Our role is to encourage the involvement of the whole community in this project and in the activities supported by the project, and to create an entrepreneurial hub in this city. The next project is also an urban innovative action, but in Cluj-Napoca, the city where is our headquarters, the heart of Transylvania. And its main focus is to identify, together with the research academia, but also with the industry, the future skills and competencies needed by our employees in 20 years from now. And I don't know if you know, but Cluj-Napoca is a finalist in the iCapital competition. For us, it's a great honor because we are the first Eastern European city getting into the finals. And for us, it's already an achievement being listed among the most innovative cities, 12 innovative cities in the European Union. And currently, this project has two objectives, beside the one I presented you about identifying future skills and competencies for the employees working in our areas. We also have the purpose of creating the research infrastructure and infrastructure for creating and putting more action in our living lab. I will tell you more about it in a bit. And also with intention to create a socially resilient working ecosystem for the current and future jobs in the city, and to imagine technologically enriched future, one that is also safe, ethical, inclusive, and sustainable. Here we have the University of Arts and Design, but also the Babeș-Bolyai University working with us for different activities. Of course, we have more projects. I will not keep you more, but in our website, which will be provided on our website, you can see that we are also focusing in orchestrating the cascade funding for supporting experiments in digital transformation, where we have consortia formed out of partners from university and also from industry testing different digital innovative solution. And we have DIH Square and Bowie Horizon 2020 financed projects. We also have Reflow project focusing on a circular economy, but also we are part of Enterprise Europe Network, where we are working in identifying different opportunities for our stakeholders. We provide different training programs and working very close with the universities in developing different curricula for the new and emerging technologies. And one of our main activities focuses on matchmaking processes. So as a conclusion, our mission is to represent the interest of our member companies and to generate added value for them through all our engagements, while also contributing to the development of our regional ecosystem in the EU context, making the connection between science and business together with all the other partners from all the areas. For further information, you have our website, the Transylvania IT Cluster website, and also transylvaniadih.ro. And we are remaining to your disposal for further question and panel discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bianca. It was so you started with this that you are only 7 years operating as the cluster, but it's impressive to see the huge work done. Also, you are gold label cluster, so a lot has been done. It's clear for this years and so many projects. And you have mentioned as well that you work closely with the universities and you focused on the connection between the research center, universities, and business. So I have a question. I hope I can start this question with you to address it. But what make a cluster attractive for scientists? If if you can basically summarize this project. Thank you.
Yes, of course. What we have noticed that the researchers and also the innovative community have very close and similar object with the entrepreneurial and also the company part. But while the companies and the economic field focuses on being more pragmatic on business leads, the innovation community and the research part, of course, focuses on the science and research. And they have a very, very important role in supporting these companies, which have to become competitive in switching their mindset and in offering them support in also this research part, in having and supporting their creativity and also their innovation. I mean, the researchers and the academia, for example, I was telling you in my presentation about our living lab. the Living Lab and being part of the European network of Living Lab, we are very proud of that also. We are using our city as a lab in which scientists, together with companies, have the opportunity to test in real-time condition different collaboration projects. So having the access to the resources put by the public administration, having access to different public areas, and also having access to our citizens, we are testing very early the ideas coming out of the university, of the research, having actually the final users involved in this innovation process. So we are not waiting to have the final result of the innovation, but during the innovation process, together with the academia and our companies, we are having the citizens on board, and we are asking them about different steps and in different stages of development of our research project.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This is really a good takeaway from this, that especially for testing the ideas coming straight from the universities, basically providing this platform for testing the new ideas. Antonio, because you're also a cluster manager, would you give your view on what make a cluster attractive for scientists? Would you add something to what Bianca just said?
I would say that it's critical, the dialogue, the continuous dialogue with them, okay? Because, you know, it's sometimes a question of exchanging opportunities and ideas. And I think that there are a lot of researchers that wants and needs to test and to develop with the companies. And, you know, we are the natural link with them, okay? So we need to provide them opportunities to speak with us, but also with the companies. And it's vice versa. The companies a lot of time needs good researchers for develop the most difficult of their challenges, okay, to solve them. And we are there to provide them the link, the contacts, the support, okay. Sometimes through the universities, and sometimes directly with the research centers. But I think that this is the most important point.
Yes, the dialogue. I mean, I completely agree with that. The dialogue is one of the most important things, and this has been proved during the past months as basically the dialogue, and we being open for continuous communication on a daily basis, connecting really different players. We found information exchange. We expanded the network, and we communicated quite open, and our language become more recognized when speaking on a daily basis, basically challenging ourselves to see what are the needs, what could be the solutions, and how the different players can react on that. Ula, would you like to add something on that question? What makes a cluster attractive for scientists? You mentioned earlier about the number of clusters on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, universities, and Bianca also said that part of the clusters are always either university or research center. So it would be interesting to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, thanks, Theodora. And also, as you
Unfortunately, we don't hear you right now, Ula. I'm not sure whether can you try to either reconnect or just...
Okay, should I try again?
Yes, it's good now. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So out and in again.
Okay. Yes. So while
So,
Ula it's trying
okay.
to we are having we have some small technical problems with Ula will reconnect,
Not
but
better.
in the meantime, we will continue with the next question, and I would like to ask what
Connect.
kind of policy instruments or new regulations would facilitate the collaboration between SANs and clusters? Maybe Bianca, you can have some ideas. I mean, you've mentioned a few projects you've been working closely on. Also, you mentioned you have highlighted that you are kind of the testing ground of the new ideas coming from the universities and research centers. So it would be interesting to basically to challenge our minds and to see what kind of new instruments, regulations would facilitate this communication. Obviously, we mentioned the dialogue, but I would be interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, thank you very much for your question. What we are doing and our activity actually has a very important role to have policies proposed from the grassroots, very anchored in the needs of the public authorities, but in the needs also of the science, university, and the companies. And this is what we are also doing. We are working very close with the public authorities, with the regional public authorities, but also with the national public authorities, because as I always say in our meetings, the status quo and the situation, it's not the same all over Europe. While some EU countries have really strong support programs and policies in supporting these ecosystems and the collaboration and the activities run by the clusters, the others, like Romania, for example, don't have such a program. So for us as facilitators, even though we know very well the needs of the companies, the needs of the universities, their challenges in working together. And we are spending a lot of time in having and gathering all this information. Our activity is not supported by any public authorities for doing this. We also have it as our mission, as our objective, and we are being very entrepreneurial in identifying different projects suiting our objectives and applying for different sources of financing in order to get the financial resources for having in place a team capable and really competent in taking care of the ecosystem, of this dialogue, of this translation between different stakeholders. So we are very happy that, for example, currently, because 2020 is a really important year for the next programming period for the multi-financial framework. So now it's the time to speak out and to have our voices heard. We are very happy because we are working with the Regional Development Agency from our region, for example, where we succeeded to introduce the importance of supporting the clusters in the smart specialization strategy. As I told you in my presentation, in Romania, you cannot really speak about a smart specialization. We are still working in finding the granularity for different fields of activity, and clusters play a huge role in this process. And also it's our cluster I'm speaking for, but also in the name of the Northwestern Transylvanian Consortium of Clusters, which also comprises of clusters from agriculture field, energy, in creative industry, furniture production, new materials, tourism. So we all represent different fields of activity, having the feedback from the research area in those fields, but also from the companies. And also, I'm very happy that in the past year, we've also connected with the public administration, with which now is negotiating with the European Commission the structural funding for 2021-2027, where also the clusters are seen as a key players for having the feedback from the grassroots. So we are working in many levels, different layers. Also, we are speaking about our working group in DG Grow, our cluster working group at the European Commission. I think it's wonderful that we have the chance to exchange our experiences and to boost and to support each other in having our say at the European Commission level, at the European Parliament level, and also Committee of the Regions. So I think that we can do a great work. I'm also advocating for getting the support for the orchestrators of the ecosystem, which currently, at least in our country, does not exist. But we have a really good signals that clusters are seen as a key players also by the Romanian government and by our regional development agencies.
Thank you so much again for this great input, and have to everything what you've been saying. It's also kind of really close to me because I personally come from Bulgaria, and we have very similar, let's say, issues when connecting, communicating, and explaining the role of clusters at on the government level, and basically building this row of good communication. Before giving this question to Antonio, addressing this question to Antonio, I want to ask you to, if you can go back in the time when you initially started to communicate, basically present the idea of clusters to universities, because I have to say that from my point of view, this is still kind of, the clusters are not very well known, especially at not exactly, this is very well known at the maybe because of the language we speak, and this is something that we have to polish a lot, but a bit. But if you go back, do you see this issue with if you go back in times to explain what is the role of clusters and how we can build this symbiosis with the universities in order to be more successful for the business and building this ecosystem?
Yes, I remember very well, and I'm really happy that I feel progress nowadays. I mean, in the beginning, it was not a problem to get together, but the objectives expressed by the cluster was not the same for the university as for the companies. So sometimes, even if we were speaking about a great and close connection between a university and companies, the university tended to say, we know better what innovation is, we know better what research is, we don't really need anyone to put us in contact with companies or with public authorities, because we are the only one knowing what research and innovation is about. This was in the beginning, in 2012. during the time, I think it's all about the people and the connection at the high level, at the university level, but also when we are speaking about the researchers, because it doesn't matter if the leader of the university agrees to cooperate with you, for example, if you are going to a research team and they don't want to work with you. So it's really important to have both stakeholders within the university understanding what's our role. We don't have their competence and knowledge and their focus, but we can help in getting their result closer to the market and having the companies working very close with them. So nowadays, I'm very happy to say Cluj, it's a strong university city with 10 universities. This one was the main asset for our economic development in the past 15 years. So I'm very happy that nowadays the universities became proactive. Until 5-6 years ago, we were always going to them, asking them for coming with us in the project and creating different opportunities. Now they are calling for us and they are asking for our support in finding companies, support from economic field, for EU connections and for different projects. So I think we came along the way is this trust element which was built during the past years. So I really feel the evolution we are having now when speaking with our universities, and they see the opportunity we as a cluster can generate for our community.
That's a really great example. And Antonio, maybe you can go back to the first days when you have started the communication as a cluster manager to communicate with the universities. So for me, and I believe and I hope for our audience would be also interested, because going back to the first steps, I think it's always giving us a chance to really expand the communication in nowadays and to find more grounds for cooperation and collaboration.
Thank you, Teodora. I need to say that the reality, as Bianca told you before, it's wildly different across Europe. Okay, and clusters has been has been promoted in Spain in some regions for 50 years now. Okay, so when we were born, I was working in a company, and we didn't know what was cluster. We didn't know anything about cluster. It was just a natural movement of collaboration between companies and the university 16 years ago. Okay, and I need to say that the university here in Aragon was part of our activity from the first day, and they were very, very proactive 16 years ago, and we are proud of that. We have an excellent relationship with them. They are part of our steering committee, and I don't know, I probably have hundreds of contacts inside the university. We have been participating in the elaboration of the curricula. We have promoted masters. The relationship is wonderful, I think, at least in my cluster, at least with our universities. But say that, I think that speaking about what can be improved, okay, I see again, there are many differences between countries in Europe, okay, but one common problem for me is the distinction between research and development policies and innovation for company, innovation for economy policies. And that is not good at all, okay? In my opinion, in my humble opinion, okay? Yeah, you know, because here in Spain, for example, there has been some times that they were both in the same ministry, and I think that it makes sense. But for now, for example, there are different ministries, okay? And that could be translated also at the regional level. And that is a problem, because you sometimes you go to some policymakers on science and they told you, You are for the industry side. I have my own agents, okay? And this is a kind of divorce, artificial divorce between something that is natural, the collaboration between, or should be natural, the collaboration between companies and the science side, okay? And for example, now we are trying to close that gap in Spain, okay? And I have excellent, we have, I am as president of the Spanish Federation of Clusters, we have now a very good relationship with the current Ministry of Science, but we need to change the laws, because in the laws, we are not part of the agents of the science ecosystem. And so sometimes that kind of uh, differences have strong consequences in the capacity that we have to be involved in projects or to help or to link, okay? So I think that it's the same at the European level. There are DG research, okay, DG grow, and probably it's not bad, but we need to create those links between companies and between researchers. And in the middle, the natural agent are clusters, in my opinion, okay? We are not the only one. I don't want to say that we are the only one, but we are for sure a very important one, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it was. It is good to highlight that across Europe, and not only Europe, of course, there are many different examples of how the clusters. I mean, obviously, the clusters are the development of clusters and operation is at a different level across the different countries, and even as I can give an example from. My country, but we are relatively young in the policy making and operation of clusters. So when trying to find the best or not the best, but the successful model of developing the clusters, we are trying to see the different scenarios and obviously successful strategies and good examples. So knowing Spain have been shaping and progressing in the different stages, it's really important basically to avoid, if possible, some of the steps when progressing in that way. I wanted to what do you think of how to encourage research centers to work with their local clusters? Because now so far we were talking about how clusters communicate, and they were trying to find the way to speak with the universities and research centers and to find the way of communication and the language, the successful language. So what do you think, how we can encourage the other way around, how research centers and universities can work with their local clusters? Bianca, I can start with you, if you please.
I think it's really important, first of all, to communicate in our communities what we are currently doing, to have this public information through social media, through our website, in order to let anyone know, not only the research center and universities, what's our current focus and our competence and capability. And starting from that, being really open and accessible and being present in different events. Okay, nowadays we are speaking mostly about online events, but I think it's also important for us as the clusters to take part in the research community events and in different scientific sessions like are being organized in our universities. And for example, what we did, I mean, for us, one of our role as a cluster is to know very, very well what happens in our region when there are changes and when the people are being changed, because it's about people working in these research institutions. And for example, currently we had elections all over our universities from our city. And actually, after the new leading university people were put in place, we had the meeting with them because at some institution they were changed. So we had a first meeting to know each other. And I'm very happy that since then, we found a reason to meet each week and to discuss about different projects ongoing or about planning for the future time. And I was very happy actually to receive a call because we have this initiative of creating the European Digital Innovation Hub, orchestrated by Transylvania IT Cluster. And we've invited in the hub also the Technical University. But during the process, during the application for the national selection, for example, which is now taking place, we've received a phone call from 2 different research institutions from our city, which heard about what we are doing, because I told you it's really important for us to communicate and tell, okay, currently our cluster is doing this and this and this, being transparent and open and communicating throughout the community. Thus, we gave the opportunity also for the other university to know our initiative, and they gave us a call asking to join this initiative, and we were very, very happy to accept it. So this is one way to do it, to be really communicative, transparent, and open to the community, taking part in specific session dedicated to science community, and being open and replying to any request that's coming out from their part.
One question: do you think or believe that there is a good to have more and more like specific lessons in university explaining about the role of clusters? Because I mean, I have to say that we have it in certain but an extra degrees, not specifically in the normal education. And I think that in order even to understand the communication and this ecosystem of the different players, I think it's important this to be also communicated with the universities in order this to be better understood.
I perfectly agree with you. And besides presenting from a theoretical approach, the most effective part is to give examples and actually to start with one little project or with one little initiative, joint initiative, coordinated by the cluster, in which to involve the science part, the academia, university, together with some companies. Thus, they can also see not only from a theoretical approach that the things are happening, and it's much, much more easier and faster to get some results out of the research and innovation activity.
Antonio, is it you agree with? I mean, how if you give us some example or add something to that in terms of?
Can give you an immediate example, because yesterday afternoon we were working we have been working 3 days, 3 afternoon this week on a mock with a international number of universities, and one of the modules will be about clusters and how clusters relate with the cities and the health system and so on. So fresh that yes, I totally agree. I don't know, perhaps Ula can speak now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, so welcome back. We are glad that you.
Sorry, yeah, had some issues.
No problem. So, if you can give your thoughts on the how to encourage research centers to work with their local clusters. We've been talking on the different examples from Bianca and Antonio, but I think your thoughts on that would be also very valuable for our audience.
I think it is important to have this mutual exchange. It should be seen as both have to profit from it. So it's not only the universities thinking then if they work with clusters, they give something to clusters, but I think the message has to be that they also get something back, because like testing, experience, exchange, this the clusters can also bring, and also different dimensions. And one, let's say, very concrete part why this is also, let's say, supported with policy instruments is smart specialization, because the principle of smart specialization is to foster a triple helix approach, meaning working together. So that has an also, let's say, a very concrete financial incentive to work together, because you will have to submit a smart specialization strategy for structural funds. But it is not only that you have a smart specialization strategy which you submit somewhere, it is you have, if you do it well, you live it. That means what you discuss together within the region, within the university and the cluster and other business is then also providing added value, economic benefit to the region. So I think this, particularly in the times we are living now, where we look at how to recover, I think then it is very important to create even more these links. And I think with the recovery process, university research center have to play a crucial role, because it's about knowledge generation. And then, but if you have knowledge, you need then to find ways how to disseminate and how to use it, how to translate it into a concrete product. And there then where the clusters can come in. So I think we are all part of this ecosystem with coming from different ways, but we can inspire each other, and there are different means put at disposal on being local, regional, national and European level to use them. And some regions are doing this very well, and others are doing it, let's say, they have less experience and are not yet there. So I think this is also an idea to help them to inspire. And some universities are very good, but others are still having, let's say, barriers to approach clusters. So I think helping them to lower the barriers, creating trust, and what Bianca said, meeting them. Like this, you create trust. If you have these personal meetings, okay, or virtual meetings, that helps to create trust. And I think this is something very important, and we should try to help and be open, but also make the steps towards the universities.
Thank you, Ula. And if you can summarize about this, I mean, in line with what we have been discussing about now, which kind of clusters partnership are interested or would be interested, in your opinion, for scientists or research centers? I mean, if I can have your thoughts on that, I mean, starting with Bianca, maybe.
As far as we noticed, companies can also support a lot the research activity, which is run by the universities. And as I told you, also the close to market solutions can be supported by different stakeholders, by the companies, and also by the clusters in having the results of the research deployed in the market, being tested, and also trying to find the markets and to deploy it. And actually, we have an initiative an informal initiative in our community. Of course, nowadays is run through the computers, through digital means, but we have science evenings in which we meet scientists with common people, not coming from academia, but coming from the companies, different IT developers or cluster managers or normal people, not having to do with very much with research. And we asked the scientists to give us an example of one of their research area, but put in common language, in normal words. And it's really, really nice to see when the questions from the audience are arising, that sometimes science, it's not at all hard to explain if you have a curious and involved audience and community. And through this approach, we are proving that, scientists are also normal people. I mean, one of my best friends, she's a scientist, researcher in physics, and she's also a cluster manager. So I've also seen in the energy field, I've also seen that approach of a scientist understanding very well the advantage offered by the cluster and putting their words in a common language to be understood by everyone.
Thank you, Bianca. I wanted to ask you, because we are getting close to the end of our session and discussion today, to summarize. I mean, if we have to take away basically to give a summary, what is the key you see, the role of clusters and in the ecosystem, and how we can connect with the science and the business? I mean, please give me your kind of, summary of that. So this is our audience can, how we can attract our audience basically to the community, so to our community. Antonio, please.
Thank you. I will say that we are a network, and the scientists are part of our network, a natural part of our network. So we are not external agents. You are invited to participate and to help us to grow and to link. Our main role is to link and to promote. So don't hesitate to join us. Don't hesitate to look for cluster near you. And if you have any need, please don't hesitate also to contact us, the European Cluster Alliance. In the presentation, you have the emails and the Twitter and LinkedIn. Don't hesitate, please. You are invited.
Thank you for the invitation, Antonio. I am sure that there will be many new connections and participants in the morning sessions, which is, again, I have to say, a great platform. Like today's event, though we are in the online format, it's another proof that through the communication, through exchange of ideas, we find ways of connecting with new partners. I would not say other parties, but new partners, because as you said, we are part of one network and we basically work together. Ula, if you hear me, I will ask you basically to address the final words and to summarize our discussion today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Theodora, and thanks to the panelists, to Bianca and Antonio. And I think it showed that there's a lot on offer for scientists, and both presented some excellent examples how they are doing it. And I think our takeaway is also how can we use this wealth of knowledge and help other clusters and help other universities because it's about inspiring others. So I think maybe this is also something, Antonio, we can take for the morning sessions to discuss further and also get some scientists on. Athanasius couldn't be here today, but to also get what they need from us to be attracted. And maybe we also have to find some which are more reluctant to find out why they are reluctant to engage with us. This is then the next step. Okay, thank you very much to all of you, and have a good day.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. I would like to thank you all. Thanks to the panelists and to our audience. Thank you very much.